shoes and walk among the groups of two. It's not ideal, it's just how we feel. It's a shame we're easily amused. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away. The air is cold, but the water's not frozen. I see ripples rolling every day. Cast a stone and hit a hardcore view. Catchphrase of the day is that it's true. There's no coffee talk and only one way to please. It's a shame what you do moves me. The only cure for this forward motion is to make emotion fly away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's All Goodall right here on Rebellious Ufology. I am Lynn Hurley with my dashing co-host, Mr.
And
Jim Goodall.
And I'm Jim Goodall with my gorgeous co-host, Lynn
Oh.
Hurley. So
This is why we get along so well.
yes, yeah. So today, if anybody's curious, I live in the greater Tucson area, and it's supposed to be 108 today, and it's supposed to hit 112, I think, in Phoenix.
Oh.
So, Enzo, how's it going? Jared should be on pretty soon.
Yeah, well, he's in the back waiting. He's here. He made it in.
And it turns out that he lives in Minneapolis, and I'm going to Minneapolis on the 11th of August for 10 days, and hopefully he'll be around because we really connected on the show, on a different show. So looking forward to it. We have a lot in common, and we're off and running.
Yeah, he's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. Did you get any reports from the MUFON function in Denver?
I haven't heard anything. No, I haven't. But hopefully it went well. Hey, Chris. I hope you're feeling better. Chris isn't feeling so well.
Oh.
So hope she's
sorry
feeling
about
better.
That.
I know.
A good glass of Jack Daniels will help that. It won't make you any feel. It won't get you well, but you won't care whether or not you're sick.
Hey, he's gonna join us today.
When I first got out of the service, I left Alaska and I ended up down in Southern California. I was sort of on the run. I had a convicted, a guy who was charged with attempted murder, and he got off by intimidating the jury, and I had to flee. But we ended up in Southern California, and one of the guys I was with, his dad or his uncle was in the Hollywood business. He's an attorney. So we went over Tom and Val Jane's house in Woodland Hills, and it was a cast of, I think it was Green Acres or Green Valley. I'm not sure. I think it was Green Valley. And the bartender, it turns out, I didn't know who he was at the time, but it turned out to be a tall, lanky young man named Clint Eastwood.
Stop.
No, the real one. No, it was, and he was in that program. It was a cowboy series.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to him and he said, "So what are you drinking?" I said, "Blackjack on the rocks. That's Jack Daniel's Black Label over ice." Okay. He pulls out a beer stein. He throws in 3 ice cubes and fills it.
Oh my God.
I had 1.5 of those. And,
oh my God. Amazing you're still alive.
Yeah. When it came to driving home, I had my 55 Chevy station wagon. And I lived at a place called the Shangri-La Hotel Motel. It was mostly wannabe movie starlets and actors and whatever. And I had to drive about the 6 miles home. I drove through alleys. I had to drive with holding this eye open like this and keeping the other one closed because every time I opened them both, everything went back and forth like this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, Jack, and how it's funny today. I don't drink at all. So
Yeah. Well, you got it all done early. You got it all done.
absolutely, and I've thrown up with the best of them. I mean, it's just life is a real joy at times. So
It is. It
yes.
is. Well, Jim, what do you say we bring Jared on and say hello?
Hey, sounds good to me.
All right. Let me get him pulled up.
Ta-da.
Jared.
Hey,
welcome.
how's it going? Hey, I'm going to be in. I don't know if you heard.
I hear you, Jared. Are you muted? Are you plugged in?
No.
Okay. Take your time. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
Oh, yes. It helps to plug in. Yes.
Oh, heard that.
How about now?
Yay!
That sounds good.
Hey, good. Alien girl. Yeah. Jim, good to talk to you again. And absolutely, we're on the same page. And I heard, and my plan, I am rearranging my schedule because I'm not going to be in Texas and miss meeting for us in person. So that's happening. We have a lot to talk about.
Because I'm there from the 11th through the 21st.
Ironically, no matter what, I'm going to be here because the Minnesota State Fair I am not missing this year.
Oh, now when is it?
I think it starts the 20, like Wednesday. I think it's 13 or 12 days. And let me look. It's, I think it's, so I know the 25th, I thought it runs. Oh, wait, I'm in July. How about I look at the right month? I think it starts Wednesday or Thursday, the 24th or 25th. Okay. And then, of course, goes to the holiday I can never keep track.
Labor Day. Yeah.
On Monday.
Yeah.
So then, so you're going to just miss it. But then again, you won't miss diabetes.
Yeah. Well, but the two largest state fairs in the country, and it all sort of alternates years, or at least decades, when one is bigger than the other, is either the Minnesota State Fair or the Texas State Fair.
You know, they say that, and then I've talked to a lot of people in Texas now that I've been down there for weeks doing work and doing that going to the Goodall Archeological site and whatever. I've been doing a bit of a survey, and I'm finding that my impression of years ago where people are like, oh no, Texas is bigger, and come to find quite a few Texans and Minnesotans that have gone to both are like, no, Minnesota's bigger. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's true. I haven't been.
I mean, they get 1.4 million or 1.7 million visitors.
I think they broke records again last year, but I it's always a crazy number of human beings eating so many things on a stick.
Yeah. And there's nothing like cheese curds, with your funnel cakes,
Tom Thumb mini donuts.
Oh gosh, you eat them by the ton.
Oh man, they come in a bag, Lynn, of 15. And the best deal has always been 3 bags for like $15 or whatever it is. And those 3 bags of 15 to 18 donuts each, or maybe they're 20, you don't share them.
Are they little donuts, I'm hoping? Not like full-size donuts?
They're mini donuts, but they're the best mini donuts ever made on Earth, period.
And they're usually still hot when you get them.
Yeah. They literally, you watch them plop out of the machine and they scoop them out as they're doing it. They cover them in cinnamon sugar, and it's disgusting how good they are.
Yeah. So it's like a Midwestern churro.
Yeah.
They're not. What do you think, Jim? Do you ever do the alligator?
No.
Yeah, no.
Like actual alligator?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've had that in New Orleans.
Yeah, it tastes like chicken.
Yeah, it's like rubbery chicken.
It tastes like chicken.
Last, for everyone waiting, one more Minnesota question then, Jim. What is your favorite thing at the state fair for food? It's hard to pick, right? Maybe 1 or 2.
I mean, I just like to pig out. I mean,
you're right.
I sample everything, but but the mini donuts, corn dogs, you have your cheese curds. I mean, it just, you name it. If it's funky and it has something to do with, Minnesota or the upper Midwest, you'll find it there at the state fair.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's pretty
and it's the best people watching. It's almost it's I mean,
mesmerizing.
it's almost as good as Las Vegas.
Yeah, you know what? I would hands down have to agree. Vegas could win strictly because it's Vegas.
Yeah.
But if you want an otter mashup, Minnesota State Fair, when you can see an entire family in camouflage down to their newborn babies, infant clothes and stroller is camouflage, because when Armageddon hits, they will be camouflage strollered, entire family winning in camouflage.
Absolutely.
That's the best thing.
That's Minnesota. Yeah.
Oh yeah. How about them crappie fishing out in the lake and the ice, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. All right. So that's not the best, or I guess nobody who's online is going to go to the Minnesota State Fair currently. So
You never know. You never know.
Right. So more importantly then, this is new. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming on. I said on Twitter, I was like, my worlds are colliding today. I've got Jim and Jared in one place.
Man, there's so many things I think I'm going to have to clear. I don't think either Jim or I are going to have a short conversation in the morning we get together.
No, probably not.
Yeah. Probably not. So where do you want to go when we're starting with this here? I mean, are we going straight down some crazy rabbit hole, or what do you guys usually do?
Well, I don't know. I just, the subject matter comes up, whatever it may be, and we wing it.
I'm not usually the low-hanging fruit, go for like some of the obvious stuff, but I am curious from your background, what do you know of, or what can you speak to of the technology in that might be being utilized right now in Ukraine for... I don't think people entirely. I'm not trying to make a leading question about just the targeting of like the drone targeting technology for like. I would not want to be a person in a tank ever. Not since.
I mean, I think the Marine Corps has come to that conclusion. They don't want anything to do with the tank because that is a self-contained
coffin.
Pressure cooker. I mean, you watch one of those things go and. There was a video of a train. I mean, probably a 2-mile long train with damaged Russian armored personnel carriers and tanks. And the people on the other end where they're reporting said they won't go into them because all of them have dead bodies in them. I mean,
nope.
That would ruin my day.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Yeah. Do you think a lot of the high losses are just simply they're in these 20, 30, 40 person troop transports and they're just getting hit?
Yep. Yeah. And this is not, from what I can gather, Ukraine was supposed to be a 3-day, we're going to march in there, we're going to take them and we'll have it in our hands in 3 days. And they didn't do any preparation for a drawn out, ground war.
Sounds familiar for Eastern Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Duh.
For those of you who don't know your history.
And now the Russians are eyeing Poland and Czechoslovakia and a few other former Soviet states, and they don't have the resources. The one thing that I think the war or the conflict, however you want to describe it, in the Ukraine for decades, ever since the end of pretty much World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, we've always had a fear of that evil Russian bear. Well, it turns out that he's been eating, too much rock candy and crap, and all his teeth are rotted out. He has type 2 diabetes, and his claws fell out. So, all they can do is go around grunt and drop a load here every once in a while, and that's about it. I mean, it's just.
It seems like I didn't think you could, if we were going to talk military history and put a little fun wager down on, could it be worse than Afghanistan for the Russians? I can't believe it looks like it does, to be honest.
It already is worse.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lost more people in the first 10 days than I think they lost in all of the 10 years they were in Afghanistan.
The problem is they're going up against highly trained, skilled people that they have trained.
But we keep. I mean, they've lost almost 60 generals or colonels.
It is crazy. I keep catching the news when another missile hits another helicopter and another one goes down, and it's like, how do they keep? Which is why, specifically in reference to, again, not that you know everything about every single Air Force or technology thing. It was just that I've been fascinated by the drone program that really cut into our space program that a lot of people aren't aware of, and the general use of these targeting drones, or these, not even the ones in the news about these assassin drones, but I'm just wondering how much technology is in the air in situations like this, that they are remote kills higher in the Ukraine right now.
Well, they're going in and using the drones to calculate the wind speed and the exact location of the target. They're sending that information, but it's in real time. So they know what the range and the effectiveness of the weapon is, and they fire it. And if they're a little bit short, the drone tells them, no, go two degrees to the left, or go another 100 yards farther out. And they make the adjustment. Next thing you knew, boom, you have a 155 millimeter howitzer round, landing in your toilet, not in the side of it, but in it. I mean, it's just.
Go ahead.
No, and this, the smart weapons that they have, where they can shoot something up, and it looks for an armored tank, and it comes down and it flies down to just above them, and then it sets off a shaped charge, and takes everybody out in the tank, because it goes to the top. Yeah, the top is the thinnest place.
That's just it's just terrifying. Yeah, I don't understand why the from the participation of, I heard about another 400 million, the declared 400 million in aid that we were doing, but more important,
Go on.
Right. My questions all to me, I'm wondering, how fast is the technology behind the news right now to get the kind of human losses that they're experiencing? How much of that is drone versus? There's no point in having a plane in the air at this point, right?
No. I mean, you have smart munitions. I mean, one weapon they could utilize there, if we agreed to it, we have the B-2. It can carry 80 GPS guided weapons, whether it's the small diameter bomb, which is about 250 pounds, but it glides and goes about 150 miles either side of the track where you're going, and they can hit within a meter of their target. And they have, they also have moving target capabilities on some of the weapons too. So the B-2 can go up and hit 80 individual targets. So you can all you have to do is, on an armored column, is take the front and the back groups, render them inoperable, and there's no way for the other, for everybody to retreat very fast.
Right.
No, I wouldn't want to be in an armored vehicle, and I don't even think I would want to be in an airplane in that, unless I was at 50,000 feet and I was invisible to radar, like the B-2 is.
So, Jim, do you think with the drones and all of the new technology that we have, are we going to see the decline of piloted aircraft?
Well, ask the airlines. They'll tell you right now.
Well, military craft, I should say military.
Yeah. No, I think there'll always be a man in the loop. It's a pretty hard thing when all the glory that the Air Force and the Navy has, and the Marine Corps as far as their flying corps. I don't think the people in charge, the generals and the admirals, are going to get rid of those fun things and their flying machines that they can go out and have a good time with. Even though more and more of them are going to be rendered obsolete. Now, one of the things that Kelly Johnson, the original founder and head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, one thing he said back in the 80s, He said if we were smart, we would get rid of all our pointy-nosed airplanes and build military transports, because the one thing that's going to happen in this world is the world's going to run out of food, and we're going to need C5s, C-130s, C-17s, or whatever it is, many more than we currently have, to help feed the world and bring aid and comfort to the world. So, and he was a guy who hated the C-130 when they were designing the C-130, which is still in production. It started in 1953, and we're not that far from 2023. So what is that? Oh, that's a long time to be producing the same airplane. And they figured that airplane is going to be produced through at least 2040.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
Do you think you saw that news story about the 5,500 person in-flight hotel?
Yeah.
Has it just been that long since we had a Zeppelin article? What really is, when we're talking about the C-130, what really is, had we already reached our limits for aircraft except for some giant mysterious Tic Tacs? I mean, are we at our limits?
Well, I mean, commercial airplanes, jet-powered airplanes, the first commercial airplane was the de Havilland Comet. Today's airplanes don't fly as fast. They fly higher, but they don't fly as fast. So we're still dealing with the same tube and wing configuration, whether it's goes to the air with a propeller or with a turboprop or with a jet engine. I think we have reached the limits of of innovation in a standard conventional type airplane as you and I see it today. Now, the Air Force did make a comment. I think I read it yesterday, or maybe Friday, that they're seriously looking at the blended wing-bodied craft for the next generation tankers / cargo aircraft. So it's going to be low observable. It will be very cavernous, both in the ability to carry people and to carry virtually everything in the inventory.
So similar to a B-2, but just
it won't be like the B-2. NASA has been playing with blended wing-bodied aircraft for a number of years, and there's a 3-engine one that's flying. It's a model. But I think it has about a 20-foot wingspan, and it's a technology demonstrator to prove that that type of lifting. It's basically a lifting body in the entire aircraft. So it could probably be designed so it's low observable. It can probably be designed that will it'll be very fuel efficient. One of the things I haven't heard anything about lately, but it was in my Skunk Works book, that the Lockheed Skunk Works is working on what they call their compact fusion reactor. Now, when I submitted all the information from my book, that's it right there. That is the Boeing was it X-48B, I think it is, and
it doesn't say
that could be what the next advance in commercial aviation is. It's going to be that. Yeah, the next one is if they're doing the X-59, which is a sonic boom validation platform. There's a picture. I don't have the picture handy, but the picture of me standing up on it with Jeff Babion, who is now retired, but was the vice president, general manager of the Skunk Works when I did my book signing last year. So there's going to be some advances, but until we can come up with anti-gravity capabilities, which allegedly, Bob Lazar said, that was the capability that the sports model that he worked on was operating with on the Element 115. Everybody, Lazar's a fake. Lazar doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. There's no such thing as 115. And lo and behold, was it about 6 months ago, they announced that we've been making Element 115, very small amounts, but we're making it.
Yep.
So Yeah,
Oops.
if it isn't one thing, it's another, but that's where the next that's where the next breakthrough is going to be an alien technology or alternate technology from what we currently see today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if in fact the everything we see that in science fiction movies, yeah, according to Ben, if you've seen it in movies, we have the capability to do it. So
That is true. So, Jared, that reminds me, I have a question for you. So, we've talked about, your thing is ancient advanced civilizations. Is there any evidence of aerial capabilities of these ancient civilizations?
Everything we see for that is in the Hindu Vedas, for the gods. Okay, not everything. We have a mysterious light and dazzle show that gets pointed out that was literally in a very famous etching lithograph from Nuremberg, right? So we have that, and of course throughout history there was, there's a lot of writings on like the Romans. They're about to take a fight to a battle, and a giant metal object lands between them, and take it as a sign from the gods that they're not supposed to fight. And then there was that battle. The Nuremberg thing happens where it looks like there's full aerial combat. And then a similar situation happens over Switzerland. So you have somebody who doesn't like someone from a more ancient time, and likely, in my opinion, local, not space traveling, pissed off anthropologists who think you're outside of their dig area. This isn't like Harvard versus Yale at the, Giza Plateau in 1920. They're not like, I say you were to dig over at Menkaure, the Great Pyramid, perhaps after tea. I don't know. They're not that. So I don't know. So I think as far as the technology goes, we see past potentials flights, but then here we are with, kernels and, everywhere that we're seeing these, these unidentified anti-gravity, weapon system blocking things that are flying around. And again, so they're either more clandestine military, or if they're not, then we have to really look at the legends that are in the Hindu Vedas and the sightings that have been throughout history, and say either we have our history wrong, and a very small portion of what was once a global society survived, re-engineered their own technology because they may have just been users themselves. It's going to take us a couple generations if you and I are the only people left to bring cell phone technology back. I'm going to throw us both under the bus. We will not be bringing that back to you post-apocalypse.
We will not.
Maybe our great-great-grandkids will.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep. But there's the deal. So is it reverse engineering alien technology, or is it reverse engineering ancient technology that has been dug back up, or technology of groups of very advanced ancient humans that continue to live amongst us? And we know that from the polygonal ruins. These are people who were actually measuring the energies and the tech, and they're dealing with frequencies and energies that only could come from a society that was so beyond and genetically and technically advanced that the devices we're not identifying in the air could very much easily be new old technology from what really is possibly a human race. So why they don't want to deal with this, or what, those are different questions. But it's really a good cloud and fog of war to keep saying, oh, they're from another planet, or they're not humans that have already gone off planet and come back with elements, or come back with, and again, it's like, just take the Rick and Morty. Because an alien tells you they're an alien, maybe they just really have like little bouncy antenna on their head, and they bought them at the dollar store, only with way more advanced dollar store. Nobody ever thinks about that. Just saying.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the theory that there's this kind of inner Earth civilization of these advanced humans, like that are just from the past?
Well, we have Buzz Aldrin. I know Jim will love. Jim remembers. Do you remember when there's that video, that famous news report where Buzz Aldrin went with Eric Von Daniken to South America to look at the laser cut tunnels?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That there's video of that. You guys can look it up online. But there are, it's not just that there's underground tunnels. So there's a couple things. One is they are very well cut, as if they were machined, and representing a group of people that very much had to plan on living below ground for long periods of time. And how far did they dig, and how much of that did we ever run into? Then there is also mysterious archaeological finds, which I can tell you offhand, that include America, that have been found that don't account for any civilization we know, that again represent periods of time that are what we call prehistory. They're not just random big caves. They were cut and they were utilized by people that would have needed room for thousands of people. And so it's not about them being primitively cut. We're talking machine cut and very well done. And Muhammad Ibrahim in Egypt, gotten to interview him, and he's like, Jared, when they say, and here's the funny thing, I knew that most of Egypt was buried. And I had heard the term that, most of Egypt, like 95% of Egypt's underground. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, well, lots of sand. And Muhammad really clarified it for me a year and a half ago. And he's like, no, you don't understand. The majority of Egypt is massive underground megalithic tunnel systems. As if the entire society, he goes, you can go miles between places underground and not primitively built. They're large. They're like the Osirian.
Have they been into these tunnels?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
And so so like the Osirian and these other places with what appears to be hyperbolic chambers, who the hell is building that?
Right.
And when you look at it, when you look at that, it's, again, you're talking about a society that's engineering. It's not about, they can lift heavy rocks. It's the quality of the work, along with mysterious finish epoxies that are on them that no one's done any material science testing on. And again, it's various genetic groups. It's, so the spider webs out into a lot of different areas, but it includes our genetics, things we think are paranormal, but all come around circle. It's a really great fog of war to say, oh yeah, it's an alien.
Yeah.
Sucked out all blood from another cow again.
Yeah. So just for those who aren't familiar with it, you're talking about the Osirian that's at the Temple of Seti the First in Abydos, correct? In Egypt?
Amen.
Okay. So if anybody doesn't know about it, go look it up. It's intriguing.
So again, technology is supposed to get more advanced the older you get. The Osirian is one of the lowest points in what's supposed to be dynastic Egyptian stuff, for those of you that don't know. And there is cuts in these large megalithic blocks. It's not just that they're smooth, but they're very similar to things in Jordan, in South America, in Angkor Wat, all over. The lower you go, the better the construction. That is not how societies are built. Because that means the Inca and the Aztecs should have had cell phones. That way they could all
Maybe they did, and that's why they're not here today.
Exactly. They're like, we're out.
Yeah.
Boy, bringing it back to a dark horse reality, Jim.
Well,
that is exactly.
It's a thought. When I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, and it's nothing more pathetic than walking down Kalakaua, which is the main drag in Waikiki, and absolutely everybody is like this. They have their cell phone.
They're not looking up.
They can be in downtown Detroit or Newark or some other godforsaken place and not know it. Even on the beach, you hear all these beautiful women in some of them very, very small swimsuits. And everybody is still staring at their phone. There's more beautiful things to see if you just pull your head out of your butt, put your cell phone down. And they're thinking there are some cities, and I think Honolulu or Waikiki is one of them, where they're going to put in the cement at the edge of the curb where the crosswalk is. It's going to be embedded in the cement. It'll say "walk, don't walk."
Yeah.
And
that's funny
because they're always looking down, and they'll see something if they're looking down. But there's been people killed just looking at their cell phone and walking out into the street, getting run over. Or walking off a pier or a dock or some, a loading platform, whatever. It'd be curious to find out how many people have been severely injured and or lost their life because they were staring at that stupid thing they carry in their back pocket.
Ooh, we're crossing over to Darwin Awards. This is great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 And all you have to do is, go in fake book and see some of the crazy stuff that people do,
Nope.
for excitement. And you just, now I know there's got to be a working brainstem in there somewhere, because they do
No.
eat and they do breathe.
Just the stem's working, but that's it. Nothing more.
Yeah, probably. None of the local, none of the stuff that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Well, it's interesting because Jim and I have talked, I'm sure you guys have together too, about, I think Bob's giving accurate assessments about Lazar, about the, what he worked on, and there are other people who have given accounts of what they've worked on.
Mm-hmm.
The question is irrelevant to the origin of the technologies. Everything's departmentalized. So I'm wondering, and I probed Jim for this for last time, and of course I'll hopefully get more out of you at coffee. But he's like, I tell everything that I hear,
and I do. I don't hold back on anything. And I think that's one of the reasons I may be banned from the Skunk Works, because I did challenge Jeff Babby on and ask him how much alien technology is used on Skunk Works programs, and he told me none that he was aware of.
That he's aware of. That's the key.
Yeah,
I love that. Did he have kind of I'm not aware of anything that is alien?
No. I mean, he's, and like I said on the program, I said if he'd been a politician, I don't know, and it was this, the BS lights went ding, ding, ding. But he's not a politician, and I was, my eyes were glued to his eyes when I asked him that, and his eyes didn't get real big, like, how dare you ask me that question? It was a pretty much matter-of-fact answer. And it wasn't something he had to search for.
Well, Jim, what about I remember some people got pretty excited when they found those anti-gravity patents that sure look like triangle ships.
Yeah.
What do you think of all that? Where they're...
I firmly believe that probably 80% of the TR-3Bs that are being spotted around the world are manned or human built craft. Yeah. And the best, I mean, even if it's technology demonstrator and it's a super classified program, or the aircraft, or whatever you want to call it, it still has to meet certain safety requirements. And that's formation lights and anti-collision beacons and whatever. So when you see a TR-3B up there and it has a red and a green light, and they're blinking, that tells me more than likely they're trying to adhere to FAA laws. It's man-built.
Yeah, I just love that. It's an alien spacecraft that obeys FAA laws.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we're secret, but we have lights on us. It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Just go all the way.
The Blackbird has a retractable light. The F-117 has them embedded in in the skin surface. They don't stick up. The B-2, they retract.
Do they do that just for compliance? I mean, it just seems like they should be exempt.
No, because if you're flying in formation, or you're flying in uncontrolled airspace,
okay,
then you need a way to be identified. So if someone sees you, they know that whatever side the red light or the green light is on, they know which direction you should be heading, unless, of course, you're going backwards. And then, all bets are off.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
No, you can look at it. You have two airplanes that can fly reverse any day of the week, and that's the F-35B and the AV-8B Harrier.
Harrier is an awesome plane.
And I remember I was at an air show. This was May of '76, and they're having a big air show in Des Moines, Iowa, at the Iowa Air National Guard base there in Des Moines. And there was a Harrier there, and it came just like it was coming in. And I've seen Harriers fly, so it was no big thing, but coming in, and then it stopped. And then it turned towards the crowd, and it went back and forth, and it went up and down, and people were going nuts. A 727, American Airlines 727 was coming in, and the airplane was banked. I mean, literally, I'm sure people were out of their seat looking out the window because they see this airplane just in the air, not going anywhere.
That's so cool.
And during that same air show, I was walking over to the C5. They had the front open and the back open. People were going through there. And there was a typical Iowa, farm couple in front of me, bib overalls, and then the husband was dressed the same, and they're heading over to the C5, and over the PA system, the announcer says, if we were to close the rear and nose hatch of the C5, there would be 1,500 people inside that airplane. Mm. And, wow. And the guy stopped and he said, Mabel, I ain't going on any airplane that's bigger than my own hometown. And he turned around and walked away.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But the Harrier is so cool. It's such a cool plane. Okay, yes, does not get the attention it deserves. But you brought up a good point. If someone who's not familiar with the capabilities of a Harrier saw a plane doing this, they might think, we don't have that kind of technology, but we do. Yeah. It's a perfect example of it. And you don't hear about the Harrier very often.
No, well, it's a British design. It started with the Kestrel.
It's still awesome, though.
Yeah, no, and it takes a really good pilot to fly it, because it has, it operates like a jet and a helicopter all at the same time, and it gobbles up gas. It doesn't have very long legs. It's I think it's more of a toy than it is a weapon of war.
Yeah, what's the flight time on it?
Oh, it can't be more than 30 minutes.
Really? Wow.
I mean, if they're in hovering mode, that just really gobbles the gas. If they're cruising along at 35,000 feet at 600 miles an hour, probably longer. But
still, that's like good to take off and land.
Yeah. Right, and there's not much volume in that airplane. Now the engine has 4 nozzles to it, and you have 2 big inlets, and you have to have room for fuel. The rings aren't that big or aren't that thick, and I've never seen a Harrier carrying external fuel tanks. So,
so it was a Harrier in True Lies, correct?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah, and and it was. I see that, and I just have to laugh, especially because Arnold was flying it.
Yeah, so Crowley says, Arnie rode in the front of a Harrier.
What's the size of the human being? Yeah, right. How big of a person can fit in there? Honestly, seriously, Jim, like 5'4"?
I don't know about the Harrier. I haven't sat in a Harrier, but I tried to sit into an ME-109, and I couldn't even get in the cockpit, let alone sit in the seat. It was that
most
small.
cockpits are really small. We were Dave and I were at the Wright Pat Air Force Museum a couple weeks back, and they have, some cockpits you can get into. They're really small. I mean, we're both pretty short, and we were like, can't imagine, like, Jared, I don't know how you'd fit. You'd be like, your knees would be up to your shoulders. Like, they're tiny.
Well,
go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's was slimmer than me. And he was able to get in the ME-109, but he couldn't close the canopy because he was too tall.
So our pilots small.
You'd have to. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I mean, first of all, 1940 vintage male adults were not 6'2". I think you're looking at maybe the average height of a European back then maybe was 5'6". If you were taller than that, a lot of them are 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", and that's the size of how big the cockpits were designed for. So you get someone like my friend Joel Christopher Payne. He's 6'6" and a half.
Oh my God!
But you go down to go to the Mall of America, for example, here in Minneapolis, and you just sit back and people watch. There are more 6 foot tall kids that are almost preteens. I'm talking about both male and female, that I don't think any of them can fit in a World War II aircraft very comfortably. Now, I've sat in a P-51, I've sat in a P-40. Those are built for Americans. I think we're always, even during the 40s, we had a bigger stature. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The better word is fat.
Big bone, Jim. Big bone.
Yeah. Go look at the local, the local taxidermy and tell me how many, how big your bones are.
Some people eat their emotions.
They're just a fat, whatever. Yeah. And I can honestly say that because in 2005, I was at 365, 375.
Whoa.
No way. Don't believe
and
it.
I lost 115 pounds in 5 months.
Wow.
And yeah, I sat in a P-51 or P-38. Yes, I have. It was actually, this is for Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Richard Bong Memorial P-38 in Duluth. They were restoring it at the guard base, and I got in the cockpit, and it was cool. And it had so many coats of paint on it, it was perfectly preserved.
Wow.
The only corrosion they had were the oil inlets, and they were cast iron, and they had rotted pretty good. But the rest of the airplane was in absolutely incredible shape. It had 6 or 7 layers of paint on it, so it was pretty much encapsulated. So
wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always find out airplane people when they hear my daughter's name, my oldest, because her name is Piper, and they're like, "Oh, like a Piper Cub." I'm like,
okay.
Mm-hmm, not at all after Charmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
Piper Cub. It is. Yes.
Jim, what's the last thing you've been flying in?
What was the last thing I've been flying in?
Yeah, for just even fun. What have you been up in, or besides commercial airways?
The last thing I was in was in a glider.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of Lake Stevens, Washington. A buddy of mine, doctor, he came by me when I was working on the de Havilland Comet at the Museum of Flight, and we became friends. And he said, "You ever been up in a glider?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, come on down. We're going to go for a ride." And we did. Even got Rosemary up in one too. And
no, thank you.
It's well, the way I look at it, it's designed to glide. A lot of airplanes aren't. Bob Gilliland, the first guy to fly the SR-71, someone asked him, how far could a U-2 fly if the engine failed? And he said, there's records of it flying 1,000 miles.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Just you get in updrafts if you know what you're doing, and a lot of it's just pure luck. I said to ask him, well, how about an SR-71? He said, well, that has the same unpowered, has the same aerodynamic characteristics as an unpowered toolbox.
So drop like a rock?
Yeah, like a rock. Now he had a flame out, a dual flame out, not an unstart, but a dual flame out at 55 or 60,000 feet. And Daryl Greenemeyer was up with him in an F-104, and he said, I've lost both engines, and he's coming down. I mean, we're talking about a steep decline or incline, and he's hoping that he can start the engines up. And you only have so many shots of TEB, which is tetraethylene boron, which is the pyrophoric lighting chemicals they use to ignite the fuel in a Blackbird. It has this. The fuel in the Blackbird has almost the same New York City fire code rating as water. You can put a blowtorch to it and it won't light. You have to light it chemically or something that's really, really white hot. And Greenemeyer caught up with Bob as he's heading down at a very rapid pace, and he's all prepared to eject. And Greenemeyer puts the rim of his canopy on his F-104 right on the edge of the exhaust ejector, and he's looking into the back of the engine. And you want to start the left engine first. That's where your primary hydraulics are. So on the radio, I told Bob, he said, "Give me a shot at TEB." And poof, it's a big green flash, And he says, "You're lit. You're lit." He said, "Well, no, I'm not. I still have no exhaust gas temperature." And he said, "Well, give it time. It's 70 below up here." So he backs off and goes over to the right side, and he lights it up again. And Bob Dylan said that he pulled up to recover the aircraft. He was at about 2,500 feet above ground level.
Oh,
yeah, but he was already to leave the airplane. But it's it's a one of, I mean, they only built 50 of them,
Right.
and it had a priority over virtually everything flying out there except for Air Force One. And speaking of Air Force One, I had a buddy of mine. He's since passed away. He was a senior air traffic controller out of the Bay Area, Tracon in Oakland. He had 17 years in the Air Force being an air traffic controller. He got an early out to become an FAA controller. In early 80s, he called me and he said, you're coming to the Bay Area anytime soon? I said, yeah, I'm going to be there next week. So we sit down, we're having lunch. He said, about 2 months ago, this is back 81, 82 timeframe, said a couple of months ago, we tracked a craft going through controlled airspace that had priority over the SR-71. Now, the only airplane that has priority over the SR-71 is Air Force One. So they called Beale, and a full bird colonel and a young captain came over this is in Oakland, where the Tracon is. The bird colonel is talking to the general manager. The young captain is talking with Bob. His name was Bob Garrow. And the captain said, well, Mr. Garrow said, you probably didn't realize what you saw. And Bob just went nuts. And he said, look, buddy boy, I've been controlling high performance aircraft from Blackbirds and U-2s and RB-57s and space shuttles since before your father was poking your mother for the first time. So don't hand me this crap. And the colonel heard the noise, come running out of the office, said, no, Mr. Garrow, you don't understand. You didn't see a thing. He said, well, I can live with that. But they figured it went through controlled airspace at right around 8,000 miles an hour. Wow. And they're not sure if it was an Aurora or whatever, but it was, they were tracking on a magnetic 310, and it just went through just one loop. Like it started here, and when it came around, it was over here, and they calculated the distance it traveled, that it was going at least 8,000 miles an hour. Wow. This is 1981, 82 time frame. Kelly Johnson in the same time frame at he was the prom center in St. Paul, and he was there for engineering week for Honeywell, the military avionics division. Honeywell produces the autopilot, the stabilization augmentation system, the inlet control system, and a bunch of other electronics for the Blackbird program, all of them, the A-12, the YF-12, the SR, and the D-21. And Kelly Johnson was the keynote speaker. And he's up there and he says, we can't talk about the little bird, talk about the D-21 drone, but there's a toy company out of San Diego and some other jackass here up in the upper Midwest that has written about it and talked about it. He was referring to me when he's talking about the jackass in the upper Midwest. And he said, and it's much like drag racing. He said, speed costs money. How fast do you want to go? He said today, 1982, 83 timeframe, Kelly Johnson said that we have the ability to do a Mach 4, Mach 6, Mach 8, Mach 12, Mach 16. Today, speed costs money. How fast do you want to go? So do we have Mach 4 or Mach 16 or Mach 12 airplanes out there or platforms? I'd have to say, yeah. Based on what Kelly Johnson said, based on what Ben Ritz said, based on what Bob Lazar said, based on what Dave Fruhoff, who chased something that left him in the dust, and he was flying an SR-71. So, and this all goes back to this 70s and the 80s. So,
yeah, that's crazy.
They're here. They just are really good at, maybe they're all Sasquatches. I don't know.
Well, saw one of those furry buggers. Well, Jim, what do you think of these supersonic missiles? Why are they suddenly making the news? Why is it just a new thing? I mean,
it's not a new thing. I mean, you fly, fire a rocket, whether it's a multiple launch system rocket or any type of propelled projectile, they're going to go fast. And hypersonic. We have intercontinental ballistic missiles that go 17,000 miles an hour, so that's pretty friggin' fast. So
yeah,
it's Mach 25s. I think they want a quick reaction time on a air breathing platform that can be launched from a conventional platform.
Do you think that they're talking about them now because the Chinese announced that they have them? So now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we have those too. Yeah, we got them.
I think it's one-upmanship. When somebody says, we're going to do this, America said, well, we've already done it. Or, the Russians put the first man in space.
Yeah.
But we put a lot more up than they have.
Really chapped our high, didn't it?
Yeah. And sometimes that's what it takes. When I hear about UFO landings and UFO this and UFO that, maybe that's pushing our government or whoever controls the information. Maybe they're being pushed for disclosure.
Hey, speaking of, Jim, did you? I was busy over the 4th of July weekend in Vegas, and what was it that you were up to for that Area 51 thing? That was where I thought you were going to do something with that anniversary of the crash and the.
Oh no, that was in Roswell on the 5th.
Yeah, did you do something with that?
No. I was going to go, and I'm retired, so I live on a fixed income, and the fact I'm paying $6 a gallon.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I just did a quick calculation. I was gonna drive to Minneapolis versus fly. I would be there at the same time frame because I wanted to take my Corvette. And it's just under 1,700 miles, and I figured, okay, it's 3,400 miles round trip. I get 25 miles to the gallon. It's $6. Yeah, it's cheaper to fly. So I got a round trip, including all the fees and everything else on Delta.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, it was $334. I mean, when you add food and lodging, just 2 nights on the road and food on the road, it's cheaper. And my son has an extra car, so I have a nice vehicle to drive.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, I can always pick you up too.
Yeah. If you can find your way, I'm still amazed at all the road closures on 35W.
Oh, did you know they closed the 110 bridge by the airport? Yeah, it's closed. All the traffic, by the way, is for all of those who want to learn a little bit about Charles Lindbergh. It's now called Terminal 1, but since Charles Lindbergh was from Minnesota, Terminal 1 is now not only entrance from 62 at the crosstown. There's a major bridge that goes to the east side of the Twin Cities, and it is closed. So all the traffic is diverted. Either you get on 55 or you go to the airport. And that is all the eastbound 62 traffic. And I have no idea how long it's going to be closed, Jim, but it's closed as of today. I was just at the airport today. So, yep.
Fun times.
Oh gosh, here's a good question. Jim, would you buy something that would likely be affected by a giant sun flare or an EMP? I think they call it a Tesla. Do you think it's a great idea to drive an all electrical? I mean, granted, that's an Airbus. If it's not Boeing, I'm not going. Where are you at with all that?
Well, like someone posted a meme and said, I'll buy an electric car when Air Force One is all electric.
No kidding, right?
Yeah.
It's just not.
Now, if we get hit by an EMP, which is very, very likely, right now the sun is very, very active. And if we get hit by a very large corona mass ejection, the only people who won't know it are the Amish, the Mennonites, and the Quakers. And the rest of us are going to die of starvation.
Wow.
We don't have a clue. I mean, I don't even have a bicycle I can get on to go somewhere if all of a sudden we get zapped. I mean, if you have a 49 Studebaker, you're going to be fine, but you won't be able to get any gas because electricity is out because everything has been fried. In 1853-52 timeframe, there was a very large corona mass ejection that hit the Earth, and it shut down telegraph lines for 8 hours.
There you go. But let's all get in an all-electric car.
If it can affect, we're talking about primitive communication that far back, then you can imagine what it's going to do. I mean, there won't be a cell phone on the planet that'll work. There isn't an electric vehicle or any car that has a computer in it, because an EMP, unless it's hardened against a nuclear electromagnetic pulse, everything, all the ones and zeros are going to all revert to zero.
Yeah, I'm all for the War of the Worlds minivan that Tom Cruise had. I want to pop the clutch and go. I'm the more money I have, the more retro I'm going. I don't want anything but a carburetor, maybe a small chipmunk on a wheel. I want the vehicle to have a crank radio, whatever. I don't want anything beyond gas. No electronics. I just want a real vehicle that cannot be tracked, cannot be disabled. I do not. I mean, it's a neat technology. I'm not hyper, scared of this, but I would use a Tesla on one of those bumper tracks. So when it doesn't work, it runs into like a bunch of sand.
But it only has it can only go 250 miles or something like that before you have to charge it again. So how far are you really going to get with this thing?
Yeah. See, Crowley's right. You can't. I think. Again, it's a neat thing, and we want to have alternative technologies, but how insane is it to have something that can literally just get a virus and not boot or just shut down?
Or you have the federal or state government saying that we've been looking at your social media accounts and you haven't been a very good person this week.
Nope.
And
you don't get food. You don't get to go out.
You can't use your vehicle for the next 72 hours or the next 6 days, or it says, Goodall, you were a real bastard out there on Facebook, so we're going to prevent you from driving anywhere for 30 days.
Oh, Jim, you're going to I think Jim, particularly Lynn, would like this more.
Okay.
So you said you were about to go out and drive your Corvette.
Yeah.
So could you imagine being so bad that not only you got shut down, but you go out to just look at your car that's shut down to find that the government has commandeered it because you've been so bad, and you would otherwise be not being green by every hour you own the vehicle. So by law, they take it and let other people use it. Like they drive it like a Tesla. They self-drive it and becomes like an Uber for the 72 hours you don't get to drive. Could you imagine going out?
Yeah.
And see your shit's gone?
Yeah. We got some old wino with chiggers and whatever. Take it for use it as a bathroom.
Well, maybe just has a couple McDonald's bags in it, and it got keyed in some parking lot. You can tell where they shopped, and
oh my god,
there's a lot of things that could happen to it. But I just, like you said, shutting down's a layer, but eventually they could take your vehicle and just utilize it. And it's almost anything when they have that much control electronically.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Enzo's saying we have 24 hours notice. That's if our government or the governments of the world decide that we're worth being notified.
Yeah. But if they do,
and if your laptop and phone, you put them in microwave, they had a Faraday cage in there.
Yeah.
Microwave is one. Yeah. That's cool. Unplug it too.
But the cell phone towers don't. You're not going to have any internet. That's all run by computers, and unless they've hardened the entire location where your server is, you're going to be SOL.
Yeah. Oh, see here, Crowley's asking the same question, but the satellites. And so, serious question: how are they? I wonder if the satellites have some protection since they're out there in space. But
there's probably some components. But the thing is, is to be able to get information from a satellite, you would need something that's solid state receiver, which would be zapped to nothing on a large or significant corona mass ejection.
This seems like very poor planning on our part.
Well, I mean,
never humanity.
And then they're saying that, oh, we want everybody to drive electric vehicles. Well, that's fine and dandy, but we don't have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
They said in a typical neighborhood that was built in the 70s or even the 80s, and maybe there's 400 homes. Out of those 400 homes, you could probably support 10, maybe 12 electric vehicles being charged. There was a meme. No, someone sent me a post. It was this summer. It's up in Canada. There were 50 some odd Teslas waiting to get to the 2 charging stations where they ran. And it's going to take how many hours, even a rapid charge, how many hours is it going to take? Unless they can do the charging in 10 minutes.
Right.
I'm not going to do it. But one thing that Elon has been pushing, and I think he's working with it. I don't know the name of the company. It starts with an N, but it's using industrial grade diamonds and some other stuff. And they said that you can charge it up and it will last the life of the vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure as soon as something like that comes out, I'm sure there'll be legislation forbidding it, because you're going to have the multi-trillion-dollar fossil fuel industry will go down the toilet. So.
Well, that's the question that I'm asking is like, why are they pushing so hard for us to go to electric cars and off of fossil fuels? So there's got to be some reason, some plan that they have in place, something nefarious they have.
They want to destroy the economy of the United States of America.
Well, they're already doing that.
Yeah, that's the left. That's the left's goal. That's what they're striving for.
That's the government's goal.
Yeah,
right. I think.
Yeah, no, I don't. I think in DC there are very, very few patriotic Americans. I think most of them, not all of them, but majority of them are in there for their own benefit. And screw you. We don't care what you think. We don't care what you do. We're immune from your woes. I mean, and if you're making, if you're a Congress critter and you're making $200,000 a year plus benefits, and who knows all the
lifetime retirement, Jim. Don't forget lifetime retirement.
Absolutely.
For 6 years of work.
And how many of the politicians out there from Biden and Pelosi and others have children that are on boards, energy companies in the Ukraine? All these billions of dollars going to Ukraine. How much is coming back?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Jim, I think this is a question we could ask Lynn. Lynn, all the electricity for all these electric things, do they come from ferries?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the juice
I just want to know where the electricity is generated.
Yeah.
So for everyone getting
doesn't it take fossil fuel to generate electricity? Just a thought.
There are some details that keeps getting left off, right? The coal, I think it's called, or nuclear. And not to mention those batteries are possibly, other than nuclear, the worst and most toxic. Ironically, we're splitting hairs between that and any kind of mining, but the battery and those rare minerals to make the batteries and the systems, the CO2, or if they want to do carbon emission on the Teslas, the Priuses, everything using these things is disgusting. It's not that saving the earth isn't a great idea, but this is literally the frying pan to the fire scenario. This is not a solution. This isn't a warm cooktop.
No.
It's a side. Oh, good. We're solving the energy issues. On the EMP issue, somebody, Enzo, there was somebody who mentioned something about, keep your phone and stuff like that. And they mentioned about survival books. I think it's super handy to have an electronic device and solar and all that, as long as it works. But a long time ago, Jim, I got really smart and I thought, wait a minute, how much do I really know about survival? and I started looking through, and I, of course, got a hard copy of the Air Force Survival Guide.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you need to have a hard copy. You know, you don't need to boot it. You don't need to wait for a solar flare to like settle down.
So the
Just a
paperback wouldn't do. It had to have like the hardcover.
Yeah, instead of
That
being
what you
dropped
think?
behind enemy lines, it's more of like it's more of a, so you've survived the apocalypse for now. And, you know, I think it's important to have these books or these things around. But for those of you, somebody else mentioned about food, you know, we're all lucky. Jim, you know the Twin Cities and Wisconsin and this area. We are literally the breadbasket. I
Yep.
mean, we would not be hit. The store's shut down and there's cows to milk. We're pretty good where we're at.
Yeah.
Not to mention water.
Yeah,
You know,
there's 15,800 lakes. They call Atlanta 10,000 lakes, but by a true definition of a lake, there's 15,800 lakes in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I don't think, and the quantity of lakes, I mean, obviously Lake Superior is huge, but for those of you who don't know the Twin Cities, half the state lives in the 7-county metro area, which is 3.5 million people. It's a bunch of cities. It's Minneapolis and St. Paul, but we have one lake called Lake Mille Lacs. The Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe control it. But this single lake is 60 miles in diameter. And if you lifted Lake Mille Lacs, just that one lake, it would literally cover and drown the entire Twin City metro area, 60 diameters. And that's one lake. So the various sizes of what we define as lakes, not to mention the start of the Mississippi, the abundance of natural resource in the areas of various areas of our country. I think the danger or the problem, like when somebody had mentioned big whoop, you're right. For me, it's kind of big whoop. I'm a little insulated overall, but I do think, you know, you think to the areas of the country where everything they have is shipped in. I mean, you have a long hike. There's a number of areas for those of you who want to be in the certain deserty environments. It's like you got to really know how to like pop a cactus and eat a lizard.
Right.
Quick.
Or like imagine being in the suburban Boston area and you're dealing with all these massholes fighting over the limited resources here.
Hey, I'm surviving here.
Yo, kid.
I mean, I'd like to be in Midtown Manhattan or the Miracle Mile in Chicago and have EMP.
No.
Oh God, no.
What are you going to do? I mean,
you know what? At least the Chicago people could walk out. I mean, you can hit farmland in a decent day's walk.
Yep.
I mean, you're in a good area, but the people in certain coastal areas where there's just not, actually even New York. I mean, the farmland areas it's really pretty. I mean, New York has a lot of farmland, but we take it for granted that we have millions of people in the Southwest. It's like, what do you think's going to happen? You know, everything you have is going to be whatever's left, and then you have to take what's left and you have to get somewhere that it's sustainable. And I don't think a lot of people are prepared for that. They don't have sustainable gardens. They don't have sustainable water sources. I think there's some very resilient people. I've seen a YouTuber with a multi-generational. He and his family, they catch rain a couple times a year. I thought it was so impressive. They hold literally 100. I think they're up to like 90 or 100,000 plus gallons of water. I mean, they have many, many years supply at a shot, but they base it off of just annual rainfall, and they live really in some of the worst of the desert of Arizona. I think it's possible, but I think if you are not 100% prepared, you need to be in an area where it's going to be relevant. And again, all this because somebody said, "Would you buy a Tesla?"
Yeah. and as much as I admire Elon Musk, the answer is no.
Yeah, me too. I'd try it.
I would try it. They look cool.
I've been in.
Wouldn't be my only car.
I've been in one. I was in one of the first successful commercial one. That's the Prius.
Yeah.
And the guy I worked for at the Museum of Flight in Seattle had one. And you get in it, and it's an embarrassing looking vehicle. They could have made it look a little bit nicer than they did.
Yep.
But how long would Snoopy serial number 100? How long would an EMP last? It could be a millisecond. But all you need is one good blast, and that's going to render literally every electronic device on that side of the planet neutered.
And that includes Airbus, folks. You want to know an early Tesla? It's an Airbus.
Absolutely. There was guys in Northwest Airlines, which is now Delta, who were trained, being a Boeing company forever and ever, and then they had to start getting trained on Airbus. And they said they will not. Well, first of all, I think Airbuses cannot fly, or they totally avoid thunderstorms. Because the buildup, the static buildup, can affect their computers and their flight control system, and all your new airplane. I mean, your newest airplanes are all fly-by-wire anyway. So, but Airbus is really a Tesla with wings when it comes to being.
For those of you flying today or tomorrow or this week,
yeah,
if it's not Boeing, you shouldn't be going.
That's right, absolutely.
And neither of us have been paid by Boeing, but we'd like to be.
That's right.
Crowley
has an interesting point too. I wonder how many people could read a relief or topographical map, or I'm going to say even just a regular paper map that we all grew up with, that kids nowadays, haven't even probably taken a look at. Simple skills as well as Morse code.
Okay,
Can you imagine millennials pulling out a map trying to read it?
So, Lynn, you heard me complaining when I was out there visiting you and when we were out going to sites. I have now checked with enough people across the country. There's something odd going on with Google. And the Maps program is just messing with people. And I was by the time I had been done 2.5 months of travel, I was this close to going back to my King's Map book, calling it a day. I don't even think there are some people out there who know what that is or would know how to use it.
Right.
And I've seen some in some people's cars, and I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm just going to get directions and drive and read signs. I'm just, being told to get off like 5 different ways on exits that don't match, whatever else. But reading a topographical map, that might as well be Chinese. I mean, if we're going to like I don't know how far beyond a King's Map book anybody could read a map.
Yeah.
I mean, if you aren't doing it, Jim, for a living, or like you said, I don't know, how safe do you think? Well, I guess we got the stats on the Airbuses, but do you make a point to only fly like Boeing?
No, I figured I'm a risk taker. So,
but a financial planner first and foremost.
I even bought a ticket on Spirit. I finally had to cancel it. And then they quit flying out of Phoenix. I guess they only fly during the winter here. Yeah, because of medical issues with my wife, and they weren't going to honor. They weren't going to give me my money back. I said, "Well, you don't fly to Phoenix anymore." So I was getting I was getting upset, to say the least.
Yeah,
I sent a thing off to the Attorney General here in the state of Arizona, but then I sent a thing back off to Spirit. And I said, one of the main reasons, because of we had to cancel the flights and postpone it twice, is because of my wife's medical condition. So I put in there, brain cancer.
Yeah.
And and everything associated with it. And I got an email back that I think the same day, and said, Spirit will be crediting your account with the full refund.
Oh, good.
So I was going to go on a scorched earth policy with Spirit, but they did come back and say, no, we'll give you your money back. We understand.
Jim, they gave you they gave you the money they still owe me from a flight. And just so you know, and we were on the phone with them this morning because they had a flight delay and weren't going to give a credit for the flight that was a connecting flight that was also Spirit, because it wasn't enough time. Somehow they tried to say that you needed, if the flight was delayed over an hour, it would be our fault. And it's like, your flight is delayed, so your connecting flight's going to be missed. That's actually your fault.
Yeah.
For your airline. But that was a wonderful escalation this morning. So it's they are still at their shenanigans. So don't feel too remorsed at the I don't think you would have gone scorched earth when you tell the truth or but accurately describe their customer care. But I am disclaimer, I am guilty of using them also, because
They're cheap.
Yeah. Until they charge you the same as Delta because you added one carry-on.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
when the
which is
carry-on
why,
costs more than the ticket.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, my wife is a retired flight attendant for Alaska, so I can fly anywhere in Alaska for free.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. You know how many Alaska flights I've taken for free since my wife retired in the end of 2015?
You didn't want to fly back to Alaska because they only fly 6 places, right? I don't
No, I
remember.
love. I mean, I've always enjoyed. Alaska Airlines is a good airline, and I spent 2.5 years in Alaska, and I love it. I mean, that was a wonderful time of my life. I was there in the early '60s. So,
there's a country we could all move to.
Where's that?
Oh, Alaska.
Yeah,
You know, because if everything did go to crap, I can't think of a better place.
I mean,
I can. Somewhere
natural
warm.
resources, good soil, lots of natural wildlife.
There's good soil in warmer places.
Minnesota, you know.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
you ain't only gonna eat iguanas for so long, Lynn, before you head either to the rainforest, a coconut land, or back up here for some lutefisk.
There's a lot of iguanas. That's all I'm saying.
I don't want to eat that much lizard, but
Alligator. I mean, it's
too much chicken.
just a big lizard.
yeah.
That's if the shoreline hasn't creeped up a few states.
Well, that it will. Yeah, maybe Minnesota will be. Well, Minnesota won't ever probably be.
I don't really want it to be ground zero for success, but there's a lot of there's a few that Jim can tell you this. There's between Wisconsin and Minnesota, there are definitely quite a few areas that are unglaciated on the hilltops, bluffs.
Yeah.
And so if we did see the water rise, we could island hop even here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Still have some soil, lots of fish in.
Yeah, for those who live on the coast or those mountainous areas like along the Rocky Cascades, the state of Minnesota, when you land at Twin Cities, you're 805 feet above sea level. Okay, the highest point in the state is in Isle Royale, and it's at 1,460 some odd feet above sea level. So you only have a 600-foot change in elevation from the average height of the state to the highest point in the state. So
I thought it used to be Inspiration Peak, and I know that's the place that's on the border, right?
Yeah.
I think that. So I'm totally cheating. Eagle Mountain is the highest natural point in Minnesota, in the United States. It's at 2,301 feet. It's in northern Cook County. It's in the Boundary Waters. And I always thought that Inspiration Peak was the tallest, which is near Alexandria, near where the Vikings are, Lynn, where the connection to, for those of you wondering how far Vikings got and America's Stonehenge and whatever else. But Eagle Mountain, 2,301 feet in northern Cook County. If you guys want to look for a place in Minnesota to save your ass, it is much higher than even I thought. And Eagle Mountain's what we call in Minnesota is the Arrowhead. So it's towards Canada, so it's north of Duluth. It's not too far from Lake Superior. It's pretty much right on the border. Maybe this will come up for everyone. And there it is.
Okay, Eagle Mountain. Yeah.
So there you go, Jim. You sound so smart. I want to make sure that you're accurate. You almost killed everyone by 700 feet. You're saving Eagle Mountain for yourself.
I'm an evil bastard. What can I say?
Yeah, that's it. He's like, I told them we're not to go. Like, we all drown. I'm on Eagle Mountain, bitch.
I had the opportunity to fly in a Huey to East Grand Forks back in the 90s when they had the great flood up there. The Red River of the North overflowed its banks. And the area in that part of North Dakota, and as it goes into Manitoba, it is the flattest place in North America. There were people who lived 30 some odd miles from the Red River, got flooded out by the Red River.
Oh, that sucks.
Wow.
Yeah, so as soon as I went over the levee, it just kept on going.
Wow.
And to fly there over Huey, and it was like you were flying over the ocean because as far as you can see was water. And there's a picture of downtown East Grand Forks on fire. and there's 10 feet of water in downtown East Grand Forks.
Oh
The
my
building
gosh.
started on fire. They had the upper floors, and they were the picture of them trying to fight it was a big Oshkosh fire truck from Grand Forks Air Force Base was trying to help them put the fires out. So it's the upper Midwest is an interesting place. Rosemary keeps saying, well, if something happens to me, what would you do? And I said, I'll probably relocate to one of two places.
Eagle Point or
No, Hawaii or Minnesota, one of the two. And they couldn't be more far apart as far as states go.
Yeah.
no, active volcano or
Yeah.
think about it. Active volcanic islands or
Tsunamis.
okay. Or where else would you like to live that maybe be free of those?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, this had to be in 97. I was on the Big Island, and I had we drove around Kilauea, and we were at the volcano observatory there at Kilauea. And I was talking to one of the volcanologists, and he said, when you were driving around the perimeter, this is when you still could do that. He said, did you see this? Did you see the crack in the road and the sign saying the rift? And I said, yeah, I did. He said, well, that is going to be an interesting subject of conversation one of these days in the distant future. And I said, why is that? They said, the island is cracking. It's going to fall. This thing's going to, parts of it's going to fall off. It's in 17 or 18,000 feet of water. And the volcanologist said, if it goes off a little bit at a time, it won't be too catastrophic. But if it decides to go on one fell swoop and that part of the island breaks off, it's 60 cubic miles of that island.
Oh my gosh.
I said, and it happened about 200,000 years ago on Oahu. You go on the windward side near Kaneohe and Kailua, and you have I think the Ko'olau Mountains. They go almost straight up 4,000 feet. Well, there used to be a lot more island there, and it broke off, and the debris field goes out 125 miles from Oahu. But they said that when the Big Island chunk falls off, anything within 150 miles of the Pacific Ocean, I'm talking about the entire Pacific Rim, anything with a minimum of 150 miles of the Pacific Ocean will be wiped out. They figure the tsunami will be between 1,500 and 3,000 feet high.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, that's lakefront or oceanfront property in Nevada, like I was always planning.
That's right. That's why I live in Tucson.
Yeah. There's how are we doing on time, Lynn?
We have all the time in the world.
Oh, good.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be a good guest here because she's like, we got about 90 minutes, and I'm just sorry. Didn't mean to kill the buzz. Okay.
Yeah.
We're good. We usually go till about 10.
What do you think about 5 active volcanoes around the most degreed people in the United States in Seattle? Let's do that.
Well, the University of Washington announced here just a couple months ago that the magma chamber in Baker, Rainier, Mount Adams, what's the other one? The one that blew up.
Oh, Helen.
Yeah, Mount St. Helens,
Hmm.
and Mount Hood. The magma chambers are all filling, and there's something. Yeah, and there was a shot. Someone took a shot of Rainier was venting.
Mm.
So they said if Rainier decides to go fully active and it melts all the glaciers on the peak of Mount Rainier, the pyroclastic flow will hit South Center, which is almost 80 miles from Rainier, and that all of the Rainier Valley, all of Tacoma, everything on the east side will be gone.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't understand how the highest amount of degreed humans in the United States live in a city that is literally the modern Pompeii times 5.
How about Mount Diablo in the Bay Area? That's not an extinct volcano. It's a dormant volcano.
What about Yellowstone?
Oh, the super volcano? Don't look over there, Lynn. Don't look.
Yeah, but the one, if or when the Cascadia subduction zone decides to rip, and those aren't familiar with it, that's where the North American plate and the Pacific plate are together and they're being pushed. And let's say this is the North American plate, and it's pushing like this. Eventually, it's going to go like that. Now, through core samples, they have been able to determine that approximately every 200 or 250 years, this thing lets loose. It's releasing the energy. And it goes back 1,500 or 2,000 years as far as, the core samples saying it's almost, you can almost set your calendar by it. What's over 100 years overdue. And the volcanologist at the University of Washington made us, I think it was on the internet here not too long ago, saying that when if the Cascadia subduction zone, when it rips, and it's 800 miles long, it goes from the northern tip of Vancouver Island all the way down to about Eureka on the West Coast, that could set off all the other faults. But when that one goes, they said everything west of I-5 for both Oregon and Washington will be gone.
That's crazy.
Well, I've been worried about it since I did the won the district science fair, talking about it when I was a kid, and I'm like, California's going to drop off. California's going to drop off. San Francisco and LA are moving an inch together every year. We're going to die. They're going to die. Everyone's going to die. Don't go to LA. It's Russian roulette.
Well, it was Mayor back in the 70s, Mayor Alioto, in the city of San Francisco. He was mayor. He said, well, if you're going to spend your last days on Earth, wouldn't you much rather spend it in San Francisco? And back in the 70s, the answer would be yes. In 2022, the answer would be, I'm not going to an outdoor toilet. So California and San Francisco can just rot. I mean, I learned how to drive in San Francisco. I used to hitchhike up there when I was a kid. I grew up in Mountain View, Los Altos area.
Oh.
And I mean, it's
and so why is it all cyclical disasters are always overdue and could happen at any time?
Because that's why they're overdue. That's why they can happen anytime.
And so have you perhaps heard of a little known phrase called half full?
Yeah.
Eeyore.
Yeah.
No, it's always something, but I do think topographical planning or geological planning, I remember thinking all the doomsday scenarios. Where is the highest kind of place to be? Like South Africa, I'm in Waterval Boven, I'm doing research, and the average height of where I was at was 5,200 to 6,000 feet above sea level, and it has Terra Preta, and it's significantly higher, and it has just about every mineral you could want. It has all the grazing lands. It has it has the largest paper mill company in the world, producing all the paper. I mean, they're right there. In South Africa, I mean, ironically, is a bit of a sweet spot. 5,000-6,000 above sea level. I'm not hurting there, I hope.
Yeah.
But you got other places that are higher, but then it's like, okay, how do you balance growing food, sustainable environment, and some sort of culture that can sustain a group without burning out the resources? And the reality is that there are more and more limited designs in case of worst case scenarios. Like you said, Jim, who would want to be around a tsunami at 3,000 feet?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
underground?
Yeah, but if you don't have the door fully closed, you're going to drown.
Good doors underground.
Yeah.
We got it figured out.
That's it, everyone.
Well, I mean, that's Tesla has his Boeing company.
There you go.
And I sort of wonder sometimes, is he a
Alien? Yes.
No. Is he a reincarnation of Nikola Tesla?
Oh.
And some of the stuff he's doing. I mean, his electric cars, he's talking about the battery that's, that can be charged up once and go for the life of the car.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 20, 25 years that the battery will stay charged. Some of the new innovations, again, Lockheed is working on the compact fusion reactor. It'll fit in a 40-foot container. You can modify that so it can fit in the belly of a wide body. You can fly anywhere in the world forever and never have to land. As long as the engines can keep pumping air through the nacelle. So we're getting there. We're getting there, and hopefully it won't be before the Almighty decides to say, I've had enough of this crap. Boom.
Well, the worst case is when you wake up blacked out on a table and go, "Where am I?" It's like, "Congratulations, we brought you back 1,000 years later."
Oh, gosh.
Well, we had a disaster, and it looks like we only have these 3 Twinkies left, but you're back.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Now the TR-3Bs and the UFOs that we're seeing flying around, could they be time travelers? Could they be us? And they're coming back in time to try to warn us or try to tell us, hey, you might as well put a bullet in your head now because you're not going to like what this world is like.
Hey, but why now? Like, why not go back to people in the 30s or like, hey, this Dust Bowl thing's coming.
Maybe they did.
And Prohibition's a bitch, so just be done here.
Didn't you watch Star Trek?
Yeah. They do jump around a lot.
Yeah. And it was a Star Trek episode.
Is a specific episode you were thinking of?
Yeah. They go back to the 1920s or early 1930s.
Oh yeah, they wore zoot suits.
Yep.
You are right.
Yeah,
I remembered that.
Yeah, I almost picture it going on right now. But
yep, Spock and Kirk, they had to hide his ears and had to hit the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
Man.
So the stuff that we're seeing, the stuff that people are encountering, it's very possible that there's. If an advanced civilization can travel across the universe in the blink of an eye, it's probably the technology is there to go back in time. I don't know about going back into the future, but going back into time. Like someone said that they want to go back to 1940 something and give Nancy Pelosi's dad a condom.
Show's going dark. Quick.
Yes. Yeah.
Lynn, I'm up. Breaking up.
What's a thought?
Boy, of all the condoms you decide to go back in time to hand out.
Yeah.
There's some others I think we could go for first.
Oh, there's a lot of them. I have a whole list. And they're on both sides. They're both sides of the aisle. We may have to dig up a few too to just
just to rebury them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're gonna do anything in retirement as a gentleman of leisure in a Corvette, I feel like this list is a good one, probably.
Yeah. Well, I have I've been fully retired now for 9 years, and it seems like I have less free time now than I had back when I worked my ass off for most of my adult life.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've never understood the idea of retirement. It's like you're now going to not learn anymore. You now have no new music. You have no new meditation. You have nothing to learn. I mean, they keep going on and on. We know less about the bottom of the ocean. We don't even know what's half buried. Archaeologists, we have 12,000 field archaeologists. That's it for the entire world. And they're only actively working on what they think they know or what they want. And it's like, well, how much have you dug up? 5%, 3%, 2%.
If that. Yeah.
If that of a site. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, this is the world we live in. And I meet people who actually say, I've done it all. I've seen it. No, you haven't. You haven't come close. It's like how do we get either that lazy or hubristic? I think you need to always be developing as a person, and there's no time to quit.
I mean, I agree 100%. I feel that I have to learn something new every day, and I try. You know, I don't read books per se. I write books, but I don't read books.
Oh, that's an
But
epic bomb drop. I don't read, I write, bitch.
I absorb news from around the world.
Right?
I read the news from foreign newspapers, English, you know, English print versions of foreign newspapers to see what the world's doing. You know, because I don't believe any of the crap that comes out of the news readers that they think they're celebrities and they know it all on the idiot box. I don't watch it. I watch the weather on local news, and that's it. And world news and news that's happening in the world, I don't adhere to UPI or the AP. I go to foreign sources, and but I use
then now you got to cross reference all of them because even they're infiltrated.
Yeah, it used to be back in the 60s when I first moved to Seattle that we had a morning newspaper and an evening newspaper. Same with Minneapolis. You had the Star, then you had the Tribune. There they had the Seattle Times and they had the PI. The PI was in the morning, Seattle Times in the evening, or vice versa. I think it was the other way around. The Times was always liberal slant, and the PI was always a conservative slant. So you read them both, and somewhere in the middle was the truth.
Yeah.
I remember when my son asked me years ago, I said, "Dad, what can you tell me about Vietnam?" I said, "Probably nothing because I didn't go, even though I was in the military during that time frame. But there's 3 movies you should look at, and somewhere in there is the truth. You pull a little bit. Which one? One is the Green Berets, one is Full Metal Jacket, and one is Apocalypse Now." I said, "You watch those 3 movies, and there may be some clarity come your way, but that is the only way I can explain what happened in Vietnam." I volunteered 7 times to go to Vietnam.
What?
And they looked at and this is 1962 to 1966. 7 times I volunteered for Vietnam.
Wow.
And I'm a historian. I love history. That's why I write. I do both my pictorials and my other stuff. I write historical monographs and Platoon, yeah. And I feel I have to know what's happening in the world, and it's in Vietnam. I wanted to go because that's where history was being made. Now, when I was activated for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, I was in the Pentagon. I volunteered to go to Saudi Arabia for a year. Now, I had a fatal attraction ex-girlfriend following me around.
Saudi's a good place to go then.
And I was willing to go to Riyadh or
hey, I lived in Riyadh for 6.5 years.
I'd much rather go there for a year to stay away from her and to see where history is being made.
Yeah.
And because I was controversial, and of course you'd never expect that from me.
No.
Nope.
Flower.
The powers that be had seen or heard reports of my F-117 book that I came out with, which was my first book, and they said it was so accurate that they felt that I was a security risk if I would have been captured.
Oh, interesting.
So at the very last, with less than 12 hours before I was supposed to fly out of Dover Air Force Base, my name was redlined. So my job was going to interview everybody from Schwarzkopf on down on the involvement of both the Air National Guard and the Army National Guard in Desert Shield and Desert Storm.
Wow.
Well, how'd you get out?
What do you mean? How did I get out? Or why did I get out?
When they decided that you were how do they determine your how do they decide that you had to travel based on your security risk? How do they decide that? Did you get restrictions in the future based on assessing your? Okay.
No, I mean, they just. I think they were pulling my chain because earlier during my when I first got to the Pentagon, I went to get my permanent Pentagon pass, and Jenny Ledoux, who was our security manager at Guard Bureau, he said, Now, I had 5 years active duty, 10-year break, and then 21 years with the Minnesota Air Guard. So General, you said you're under investigation for something. You have a flag on your security clearance, and I had as high a clearance as you can get because I had to have the same clearance as the wing commander, 2-star.
Wow.
So I called up Pete Ames, who was deputy director for program security for special projects. I had sent him the manuscript to my book, my F-117 book, and he chose not to respond. I sent it to Lockheed. I sent it to Department of Defense. I sent it to Secretary of the Air Force. And so I called up Pete and I said, Pete, this is Jim Goodall. Says, are you here in the Pentagon? He said, yes. I said, we got to meet. To where you're at? He said, I'm in 5D 156. And they've changed all the room numbers now, so I'm not giving away anything. And I said, can we meet today? He said, yeah, 1300. And I said, okay, I'll be there. So about 12:45, I wander over to that part of the Pentagon, and there's only one door in this real long hallway. So I press the buzzer on the cipher key, and the door opens. And I go in there, and I'm in uniform, and there's a I think it was a young lady behind the desk. I said, I'm Sergeant Goodall. I'm here to see Pete Ames. And her mouth just dropped. She said, he'll be with you in just a few minutes. And I had a parade of people coming through saying, Goodall's here. You want to see what he looks like in person? I mean, Jim Goodall, that guy. And I had about 10 or 15 people walk by, both in suits and in uniform. And I finally got in with Pete, and we sat down there was another agent in there. There's two of them and one of me. And he said, when I saw your manuscript for the F-117 book, I wanted to put you on active duty and charge you with espionage. I stood up. I pulled out of my briefcase an autographed pocket copy of my F-117 book to Pete Ames. I threw it on the table, and I said, there's Exhibit 1, charge me. Oh, well, you don't understand. I said, no, I understand really well. I said, I gave you guys the opportunity to censor stuff that was in there. I sent it to you, but no, you arrogant SOBs, you're just too important to do the Mickey Mouse stuff. So you had your chance. I said, you could have called me up you could have come to our unit on a drill weekend. You could have called me in to give me a secure briefing, a real vanilla secure briefing on the F-117, which I'd have to sign and acknowledge. And I would have been screwed. But you bastards are too arrogant for that. Mm-hmm. You think you have all the answers, and you don't. I said, well, you don't like the questions you're asking. I said, Pete, the only way you're going to stop me from asking questions of my government is with a bullet. I said, I'm not afraid of any bastard in this building. You can shut me up by physically shutting me up, but you're not going to stop me from asking questions. That is my job as a patriot, and that's my job as an American citizen, to question my government. And if you're doing something and I send a FOIA request, or I ask for information on such and such, if it's not classified, and classifications are very, very different. I think they hide a lot of stuff for power and for money reasons. It has absolutely nothing to do with national security. I said, for example, when the F-117 first flew, and this was in June of '81, they figured, well, maybe we can keep this thing classified for the next 15, 18 months. So 15 or 18 months passed. No one had spotted an F-117. Well, let's see if we can make it 2 years. They made it 8 years before anybody was able to anybody went out and photographed the F-117. And I was one of those guys that photographed the F-117 before the world ever saw it. And Ben Rich, and who was at the time the president of the Skunk Works, he said, Jim, security costs money. To keep a program classified for an inordinate amount of time adds 25% to the total cost of the program. So here these guys they're playing a stupid game. Hey, let's keep this thing classified let's see how long we can go. And it doesn't, I mean, it's idiotic. So the inmates are truly running the asylum, and Air Force Specialty Code. Yeah, I was photosensors. Okay, just curious. Now I was started out as a boom operator and then became a communication specialist and then ended up as a historian. And I don't even know what the AFSC is for history anymore. It's been changed, and I think they've eliminated most of the history positions, most of the enlisted history positions in the Air Force, in the Air Guard, in the Air Force Reserve. So, but I do remember AFSCs. Yes, I do. But the idiot, there's, and it goes for UFOs as well. There's, why are they afraid to tell us unless, like I've said in the past, maybe we're not in control of the dissemination of the information.
That's the biggest worry, I think, isn't it? I mean, who's really in control, and then how many of the problems we're suffering today are because of it.
Maybe all of them are.
Right. That's the issue, is that the rage, I think they're the Dutch boy at the dam. If the people knew how easily certain things could be different, or, on paper, it might look black and white, like, yeah, we could have cured cancer, or, alien Tim or advanced ancient human Tim gave you religion. We're sorry about that. That didn't work out like we thought. So much for conscious and third eye reactivation. Yeah. We thought you'd get the whole love one another thing, and eventually you just like break through, but well, you kind of broke each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I don't think the history, let alone the actual there's the other thing. How many of them really know, and how much of it is just a web of, they've built this crusty system of deception, greed, and it feeds itself, and they're only really manipulating 1,000 people or 500 people. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's like perpetual motion. I mean, it's self-generating, and there's no end.
Yeah, and so now it's an in-place system that is kept. One of my worst case scenarios is that we look at some of the legends and myths in our oldest storytelling from the Hindu Vedas forward, and the idea that there is or was an advanced race of us that clearly wasn't getting along based on witnesses between 1500s Nuremberg and Switzerland and the Roman. There's a chance that, what if we were the oppressors? What if the reason we're left to rot is just simply that we were the worst of the lot? And so the punishment is that they watch us suffer and continue to do unto ourselves something that we may have done for millions of years. I mean, Lynn and I just talked about a pre-human that was found 1 million years prior. The reality is that the Hindu Vedas talk about tens of millions of years of human history. We might be on a penile colony of suffering because of what we may have done when we were 100% conscious. Not to go down a dark road, but I guess it's my turn. How about that for being half empty?
Yeah.
Those UFOs are just our prison guards. Those are the ancient humans that used to be the suppressed. We don't need another hero. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Sorry, I digress. Yep. We're the hillbillies of the bunch. Or the warlocks. If you were if you're a fan of H.G. Wells, we are the. Because you have parallel races. I know it came up earlier with a couple of the people talking. Is you have the Paracas of Peru, those elongated skulled people that are all over the earth. They're paralleling the human race we know. You have Neanderthal and Denisovan breeding with humans, even though they had thicker bones, stronger and bigger muscle systems. They're portrayed as subhuman, but they're breeding with humans 50,000 plus years ago. So what's the world we're living in with all these parallel human races? And again, we have this very, very muted story of our history. So it just doesn't add up.
It makes sense if you think about that we would have all of these parallel species of humans. Because if we look at the animal kingdom as an example itself, look at how many different species of primates there are, how many species of monkeys there are, right? Or how many species of squirrels there are, whatever it is you want to look at. Within each of those species, there are subspecies. And it's so faceted. Yet humans, there's only one. That never made any sense to me.
Well, and it's out there. I mean, the genetic evidence is there. It's in mainstream academia. It's like, oh, there's, but they don't say it. They won't say that they're parallel yet. Oh, these existed. Well, isn't it also when these existed? Well, yeah, but they never throw it in one sentence. So then it doesn't exist.
You haven't met any of my ex-wives.
Well, you, sir, are in the Hawaiian shirt and bossing it. So tell us, what about, are these Neanderthal present, alive, upright?
Oh no, they're all to my knowledge, they're all alive. My first wife is very sweet. We're very close. We were married 20 years. We've been divorced 30. And when I go back to Minnesota, that's who I stay with. I stay with my ex. Even when I was back there earlier this month with Rosemary, we stayed with my ex-wife. They get along great. So maybe that's my alternate universe.
I'm just gonna, if we meet for lunch and anyone's with, I'm gonna sit between you and whatever the other targets are.
Yeah,
just need a shield just in case. But that's great.
Don't sit with my back to the door. So
nope.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're saying you have a couple that might qualify for alternative human species?
Yes, I think my daughter's one too. I really don't think she was born on this earth. I think she's from some weird planet. She has an IQ of about 170. She's adopted. We adopted her from Korea.
Okay.
And she has a mind that doesn't work like anybody's I know. She can look at things and analyze things so totally different than I could ever do. I mean, and you don't know what even when she was real little. When she was like 2, she had her brain operated like an adult. I was looking for something. And I said, "Damn, I'm trying to find such and such, and I haven't seen it in about 6 months." And just Alicia came and said, "Dad, it's over in the basket down at the bottom." I didn't know she was paying attention, and I put it away 6 months or a year before when she was even smaller. And she was able to retain it. So I think she's from a different planet or a different subspecies of human, one of the two.
That's really interesting because that young, that kind of observation level. What kind of spy plane is she building for us now, Jim?
I don't know. She did something that I admire my daughter for. Her and her husband, they were trying to have kids and they couldn't have any. So they went out and adopted 2 autistic brothers. They're Cambodian Hmong. They were 5 and 6. They'd been in and out of multiple foster cares. No one spoke to them because they thought they were deaf mutes. So they taught them sign language, but never spoke to them their entire first 6 years of their life. And they decided they were going to adopt both brothers. And a scale of 1 to 10, you and I being a 1, Lynn, I'm not sure, maybe a 2 or 3. You weren't paying attention. So
I wasn't.
The oldest, you can tell things are going in and they're registering. He just doesn't know how to take them out of those particular categories yet. But you can tell there's someone home. On the youngest one, and the oldest one is 5.5 to 6.5 on the autism scale. The youngest one's about a 9. And my daughter says he'll always live with us. He'll either that or he'll be institutionalized, one of the two. But they decided, my daughter's Korean. We adopted her when she was 5 months old. She came over from Seoul. And I think she felt that since we actually saved her life and adopted her, that she had to give back. So that's why I think her and her husband decided that they would willingly, and it's amazing. I give them all sorts of accolades for what they've done, because these 2 boys, if they had been split up, it had destroyed them, because they were each, this was their world. The 2 boys were each other's world, and and they've had them now 3 years, and they go to school every day. The state of Minnesota pays for it, 1-on-1. And I know the state of Minnesota gives her a lot of, gives them a lot of resources to help with it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But being my daughter is an alien, she doesn't have a problem with it.
Alien adoption program endorsement.
No, I mean, I think she's from a different planet. I don't think my daughter is from this world. She doesn't think like you and I. She doesn't think anybody I know that's from Korea.
That's
interesting. She'd been tested when she was 2.5. We're having some friends over, and I don't know if I can swear on this program, but
go for it.
Patty was saying something, and I said, "Oh, bullshit." And Alicia gets out of her chair. She comes over and said, "Daddy, you can't say bullshit." I said, "Alicia, you can't say that word." And she looks me right in the eye and she says, "Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit." I said, "Tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. I won't say that again if you don't." She said, "Okay." And I've never heard her say the term ever again.
Oh.
So this is at 2.5.
Wow.
And about the same time frame, I'm Saturday morning, I'm having a cup of coffee, I'm reading a newspaper, and I set my newspaper down to get some more coffee, and it just touched her artwork. And she was always the bottom percentile of height and weight. So I'm getting a cup of coffee. All of a sudden, I hear the newspaper go on the floor. I came back and I said, "Alicia, you have to pick that up." She crosses her arms. She said, "I'm not going to, and you can't make me." Oh, yeah? So very gently, I reach behind her. I grab her hands around her wrists, and I pick up the newspaper and I put it on the table and said, "There, you did it." And she looks at me. She says, "Yes, but not willingly." This is a 2.5-year-old. I knew right then and there she was going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But I wouldn't trade her for anybody. She is the most wonderful daughter on the planet. So, well, we killed 2 hours. How about that? Yes, we didn't hardly even talk about UFOs or thing to go bump in the night. And
Well,
Jared, I'm looking forward to sitting down with you over lunch or dinner or whatever. And
yeah, we'll have to talk about that offline and figure out a time.
Yep. I mean, I have an agenda on the 13th, which is a Saturday. I'm going to be going out to Lake Sylvia. I'm bringing my son and my two of my grandsons out there there's a big bash going on from my friend who has a cabin there.
So Friday.
And then on the 18th and 19th, I'm at Brainerd for the Brainerd National Drag Races.
All right. Well, yeah, as soon as you have some time for us to chat offline, we should
sure
talk tomorrow or later.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
All right. Lynn, what else you got? What else you got, Lynn? Lynn.
I'm chatting.
I know.
But I do want to say thank you to Crowley, who just bought us a tea on buying me a coffee. So thank you so much, Crowley, for doing that.
Yeah.
I've been, I have to look for everyone watching me. I have to look off screen to see what you guys are saying. So when people are talking, when I'm looking, I am looking and trying to keep up with everyone. But
yes, well, Epic and I were having a conversation about the human species and why there's only one human species at this point, or they blended human species. So that's what was getting me so interested.
Well, not if there was eyewitnesses to those, what they thought were that Hobbit race of people is still alive, then nope.
How about the giants?
Yep. There's a race though, Jim, that they identified possibly visually that were like Hobbit-like people, like a bit like pygmies, and they're still alive. There was just news about it a few weeks ago. So, but the dead, yeah. What about giants?
Yeah.
To your point,
who did David knock on his butt with a rock in his slingshot?
Oh, Malcolm Gladwell does. I am going to endorse. The author of Blink and a million other good things. He does a YouTube about who Goliath might have been. It's incredibly brilliant and sad, and what it was. If you guys want to see an interesting take on it, Malcolm Gladwell's YouTube on Goliath, David and Goliath. I think it's worth watching. It's very sad. The deadliest weapon in ancient times. It was the equivalent. The slingshot was the equivalent of a .45 caliber weapon, and it was as accurate and more accurate. There's accountings of what a slingshotter could do. So sending, I'm not going to ruin it. Just look up Malcolm Gladwell's YouTube TED Talk. I think it might have been a TED Talk about who he thinks Goliath was and the caliber of the weaponry of what you were sending someone in to do with a guy with a club. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
It's great take on it. Great storytelling.
That's great.
There's another half empty. I'm a downer for the end of this show.
Right. Thanks, Debbie. God.
Just call him Karen.
Jeez,
Yeah.
I am. I can't wait till we meet.
Yeah.
If you're feeling up, bring you down.
Yeah. Almost nothing brings me down. I just I've been blessed at that.
Yeah.
I had one of my wives suffered from severe depression, and there were times she'd sleep 20 hours a day because she just couldn't cope with being awake, and that wasn't because she was married to me.
You had nothing to do with it.
No, actually, I helped her to some degree, but she said, "Well, you don't understand being depressed." And I said, "You're right. I have no concept whatsoever on what it's like to be depressed. Yeah, I don't think I ever have been. I've been disgusted. I've been upset. I've been sad, but I don't think I've ever been depressed. And it's not in my DNA. Even in terrible times, I try to look at things with a positive view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just a few things happen in my life that I'm not mad about, but I can't be justified. I buried 2 children, and that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine.
No, it's you wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want anybody to have to imagine what it's like.
No.
But,
well, what do you? I mean, how honestly, just on a side note, do you just get more comfortable with it?
You never do. It's always back there. Everything that could be done medically was done, and then some.
Yeah.
It just. But I have, I sort of walked away from the church after that. A dear friend of mine, Paul Ronstadt, was the senior pastor at Woodlake Lutheran there in Richfield. He was also my wife's brother-in-law. And Paul said, "I don't blame you." Said, if they had to pull this crap on me, not once but twice, I would lose a lot of faith. I still believe in God, and I still believe in heaven and earth and hell and whatever. But it had a very, very profound effect on me from a religious point of view. I'm very spiritual. I try to be a good person. I try to have a good heart. And but some things you can't control. I could not. I had the best medical. My babies had the best medical help that there was available in the world. I mean, you can't do much better than Minnesota hospitals. I was at Abbott Northwestern. My brain surgery was at Mayo Clinic down in Rochester, Minnesota. So if there's certain cities, if you're going to get sick, if you're going to get things are really, really bad, Twin Cities is a good place to be. When we lost Patrick, I came in at about 2:00 in the morning. I was real restless. I came back to the hospital. My wife had been in there. She was having a real difficult pregnancy. And there was a guy in track shoes that were kind of beat up, ripped off sleeve on his shirt. He said, "Who were you?" He said, "I'm Eric Knox." I said, "Well, who in the hell is Eric Knox?" He says, "Oh, I'm your wife's perinatologist." It turns out there were only 2 in America at the time, and Eric was one of them. And they specialize in premature birth and difficult pregnancies. And that's why Andrew's middle name is Eric. Because he tried to save him but couldn't.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, things are looking good with my wife. She had her MRI yesterday. They didn't see anything in there. My wife had a brain tumor malignant brain tumor taken out in February.
Yeah.
An emergency brain surgery because he had an aneurysm that was inside the tumor itself. And the brain cavity is volume specific. So when the thing went from this big to this big, it was like a bomb went off in her brain. But she's alive and well and feisty, and she's in the other room right now. So I didn't lose her, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but she was gardening 3 weeks later.
Yep.
Amazing.
So, yeah. So that about does it. We've been going on for 2 hours and 9 minutes and 44 seconds. That's pretty good. I don't think we've ever. When I first started this, well, let's do it for an hour. Okay. I don't think we've ever stopped anywhere near an hour. I think it's always been at least 2.
Yeah.
Well, and
two and change.
Lynn, what's worse is this is the Minnesota goodbye, and there's 2 of us. So hypothetically, this should take another 20 minutes. And that's just a walk to the car to stand by it and talk.
Oh yeah, it's like being an Italian. Also do the same thing. Yeah.
So you guys can just assume that we're not actually done until Lynn wraps this up for us.
Right.
But,
it's Jim. That's all Jim. Jim wraps it up for us. So.
My bad.
We'll see.
Yeah. So to everybody out there in Cyberland, I said I hope you've enjoyed the last 2 hours and 10 minutes because I've had a thoroughly enjoyable evening and late afternoon, depending where you're at. Jared, I'm looking forward. I had a ball talking with you here last week. I'm looking forward to sitting down with you and we're solving all the problems of the world.
Oh, and a little expedition. That would be great.
Yes. Oh, I mentioned to the wife about Peru. She said, "Well, when are you going?"
Well, we'll have to chat. I texted you. You just let me know when we can chat, and we'll do that.
Sounds good to me. And Lynn, always a delight.
Thank you. You as well.
I see your warmongering husband posted a couple of different times. Give him my very best.
I will.
And I look forward to meeting him one of these days in one of the various functions.
Absolutely.
And does anybody hear where next year's MUFON convention is going to be?
No idea.
Okay. Maybe it'll be in Phoenix, or I don't want to go to the East Coast, but oh well.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. So to one and all, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your interest in what we have to say. Jared, as it was last week, I'll say it again. It was an absolute delight. Lynn, you're always a delight.
As are you.
And I'm signing off. I have to go in and see what my doggie's up to because she gets a little bit nuts about this time because I'm supposed to be with her, not locked in my office. So take care.
Our little Pat.
And Jared, you have a good one. Stay safe, and I'll see you here in a minimum 30 days.
Well, that and we need to talk before. So
absolutely, yeah.
Hopefully, we'll talk in the next couple of days if you're free.
I'm free. I'm retired, so I'm free every day.
Well, then you heard him set himself up for that. I'll give a call tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm your witness.
But anything past midnight or 1 o'clock, I turn my
I do the same
off.
Thing.
Yeah,
it's classic Minnesota goodbye moment. We're gonna talk 5 minutes about that.
Yeah, we're still here. It's been going on for 10 minutes. So again, I'm gonna say goodbye.
Good night and goodbye.
Au revoir, adios.
So there he goes. Well, thanks, Jared.
Bye, Jim. Meow.
It's got that itchy trigger finger.
And I don't know if, he opted out quickly as a sun flare and then bringing it back around.
It's amazing. I love it. So then we're going to be on Thursday together. We don't.
Yeah.
It'll be something exciting. Don't want to give it away for everyone.
Nope. But we will be doing our show normal time. Wait, should we declare to people our normal time or our time this week? Forget it. Our time this week. Do you have an idea?
7 p.m.
All right. 7 Eastern.
7 Eastern, yes.
Okay,
That
so
works.
let's do that on Thursday night, this Thursday night for every one of you out there,
Yeah.
and then lots to talk about. Then thanks for having me on, Jim. This was a blast.
Hey, thanks for coming on. It was fun.
Yeah, and you know what? It just to drop some caveat for people when Jim and I were talking about. I think a lot of people may or may not know about some expedition work that I've been planning. So this isn't a go visit monuments. This is some pretty serious research work that Jim wanted to jump in and participate with.
Nice.
So just so you know that besides our chats online for everyone chatting like now and for us having fun, there's always field work that Lynn and I have done, and there's more field work to come and more documentaries and more photos and bringing you some new stuff. So it's fun to chat about the stuff that's kind of out there in the vernacular, but I'm excited to think that Jim could be a primary participant in a soon to be expedition.
Oh my gosh.
If you count months soon, but yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And if he was there?
It's so funny because it's escalated. First, it was like, I'm going to help out, but I'm going to watch vicariously from a distance. Now it's like, I told her I'm going. Ain't going to say no to that.
Nope. Oh my God. He'll keep us entertained.
Yeah. More so than the entire megalithic ancient elements of that mysterious land. And we'll have Jim.
Yes. Crowley says, you don't work. You both just look pretty. Lies.
Your usual check will come in the mail.
Yep.
I don't know if he's using you to get to me or me to get to you, or wait.
It's probably me to get to you. That seems to be the case usually.
What? Anyway, all right. We should sign off with your pretty exit thing and then chat afterwards for a second.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you again for coming on with us. And everyone, you'll see Jared and I. We're going to be on both channels, his, Not Aliens, and mine, a Thursday at 7 p.m. So take your pick, or even better, go on both. Watch them both at the same time. So, all right. Cool. Well, thanks, Jared.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you.